I would say that we are so ready, but that's not allowed on this show.
Nope.
I'm actually slow ready.
Hey Megan, hey Brian.
Hey,
RJ, Megan, how are you guys doing?
Man, we're back.
we're
We're back just
Yeah.
like
back.
that.
I'm so
Just like
happy
that.
we're back.
It's crazy. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it like when I was listening to that show, it was like, we go for 7 months or however long it's been, don't hear any Fish, and then suddenly it's back and like everything just comes back right away. The people,
Yeah,
music, the band, Trey was so excited. I mean, he's
so
always
excited.
excited, but he seemed especially excited.
I feel like I've never heard him actually acknowledge that this is this tour. Like he actually welcomed people to summer tour, which is kind of a
Hmm.
phrase that fans use all the time. You know, like we have our names for all these sort of things. And you never hear the band be like, "This is our summer tour." And like Trey really, really leaned into that. I felt like there was he must know something, he must know that the band is going to play well this summer. That must be what it is.
They're
I
certainly
felt like
excited.
he kept like looking at the audience and just like smiling and being like, it's like I felt like I was overhearing something you'd hear on Law. Like, I can't believe summer tour is back. Like, this is the best. Like, that's what Trey was saying. It was so
Yeah,
cute.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. Okay, so we promised that we would keep these true to our name, which is quick hits. So we're gonna do it. I guess I first you just need to say that we've been posting a little bit, but just if you're listening to this or watching, save the date, August 5th. It's a Saturday. It's the last day of the MSG show. We're gonna do something in New York in the afternoon to celebrate our 10th anniversary, and we will release more details soon. And Brian, that goes for you too. So you better mark that on your calendar.
It's on the calendar.
All right, so we have the first Fish show in 6.5 months or so, right? No, no. I guess they played in Mexico. I was there. That wasn't
Yeah,
bad.
And they
we were
played
there.
and they played a spring tour.
Oh,
How how
right.
how in the world are we all forgetting the spring tour here?
Wow,
Great.
we're
Okay.
rusty. We're a
We're
little
We've
rusty.
had
It's
quite a bit of
okay.
Fish thus far this year. It's been really nice to get. It's similar to last year where we had Mexico, we had MSG, and then we had that mini little end of May, early June tour. We
Mhm.
had the hors d'oeuvres ahead of summer tour. We got to get a sense of where the band was at and check in with them every couple of months. It was really nice. I like this approach to each year.
Yeah, I do too, and apparently I don't remember any of it. But it does. It feels like it's been a long time, but it's cool that like the city, like you said, Brian, the summer tour officially everyone's on board. So Huntsville, Alabama, the home to many PhDs. What'd you guys think of the first set, or should we read the first set, or should we just go into it and talk about some highlights?
I think you should read the first set and then we can just kind of share our highlights from it.
Okay, so the opener was not the song that Brian called, unfortunately, but
No.
we got a Blaze On. I'm not going to comment on these songs, I promise. Blaze On, Martian Monster, Moment Dance, Haley's Comet, Into 46 Days, Back on the Train, 555, You Enjoy Myself, Into Santos. Um, yeah, the Blaze On, sets the tone. It's kind of it's a good way to kick it off. But yeah, there were like four songs in 20 minutes, so I think they were kind of just getting the feel for it. But what do you guys have in terms of highlights?
For me, the big highlight of the first set was the 46 days, and the whole reason for it. It kind of ties into one of my big highlights from set two was, um, you could hear the sounds from the Trey trio shows really seeping in. That kind of big, meaty, fat guitar sound that Trey had in early June when he played out here at the Mission. Mike sounded really loud. Fishman sounded just like propulsive in his playing. There was just like a lot of weight behind it, a lot of feeling. That to me was the moment during the first set where I was like, okay, you can start to hear a new sound that's being incorporated that's like plucked from various side projects, but you also hear kind of a classic thing that tends to happen on a Fish tour where an older song, which 46 days is now 20 years old, which is absolutely wild, but an older song like that starts to fuse with newer sounds and you start to hear kind of the directions, at least as a hint. It's tough to predict things this early in a tour, but early on you get a sense of where the band is going. So that was my biggest highlight of set one. Aside from that, it felt very much like we're settling into tour. We're playing some songs that are fairly straightforward, fairly easy for us to get through, high energy, give the chance for the band to, get reacquainted with the crowd, give a chance for the crowd to get that sensation of, oh my God, we're back. It's Phish tour. Not too much more than that. And I don't really think it necessarily needs to be.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the 46 Days was awesome. They sounded really tight. I love that kind of dark, growly jam that they're
Mhm.
getting into a lot. It's just like really meaty and growly, like you were saying, Brian. I also think Trey's tone just stood out to me so much during the show. He sounded incredible. And when they're playing that kind of like dark, growly jam and then Trey just comes soaring out of it, it's just like, just perfect. But the other moment that I really liked from set one was the You Enjoy Myself. I felt like the sun started to set and you just hear those first few notes and it's like, yeah, this is like the perfect song to play here. It was just perfect placement, really nice sonic landscapes that they've been doing. They did some of that in Mexico too, like before the trampoline. They've been really building with those like textures and layers there. It sounds so good. I hope they kind of like push into that direction. But it was super delicate, effortless, just really beautiful. You Enjoy Myself. They sounded really good. Mike sounded incredible. I thought this whole show, like you were saying, Brian, I think his levels are really good. I thought the mixing was perfect for the show. And I thought that was my other favorite moment from set one.
Yeah, I mean, like You Enjoy Myself in the first set of the first show is a bold call. I appreciated
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
appreciated that for sure. I thought that the sound, especially like the effects, I didn't really notice. I think someone was saying that Mike was louder. It sounds like I didn't hear a lot of new equipment or new sounds or new like toys. It sounded pretty similar to Spring in Mexico, but those Denver shows, you saw one of those, Brian. I mean, they were really dark. Like all the jams were dark, and it seems like Trey's kind of carrying that over.
Yeah, I mean, what was interesting to me about those shows was with a trio, there's no room to hide. And so all three members are front and center. And you got that a lot with Trey, that I felt like the first night of the Trey trio shows, kind of similar to tonight. I don't think they necessarily Trey knew exactly like how far in front of things he wanted to be. He's sometimes very aggressive. He comes across sometimes arrogant in a really good way, but also sometimes comes across very tender and very vulnerable. And it felt like the first night of that Trey trio weekend, he came across on a very vulnerable side. And then by night 2 and night 3, there was a lot of confidence and there was a lot of just like that strut and that like, he would hold his guitar in a way that felt like he owned that instrument and he owned what was happening. And you got that in moments last night. It did feel I don't want to say tepid, but it did definitely feel at times like, let's not overstep here. Let's let song selections like You Enjoy Myself in the first set, or kind of what happened towards the back end of the show, which we'll talk about, really define that like we're putting our stamp on things, rather than let's come out and just like destroy this entire venue the way that they did night 1 in Seattle.
That's great. Look at this. We're being quick. We promise.
Quick.
All three of us, Ryan Storm said Brian looks dapper and I look formal. I think it's because I have a collar on my shirt for the first time in God knows how long.
I guess
Megan
Megan
looks great too. I was going to say,
Megan, you look wonderful.
Thanks,
look
guys.
amazing.
So okay, if Ryan doesn't think so. Ryan, I'm just going to wait for my compliment from you. It's fine.
You're just his co-host. That's all it is at this point.
Yeah, I guess so. Sorry.
Takes you for granted. Gosh.
Totally.
All right. So set 2, we get Down with Disease out of the way. Some people might say that, but it starts with 2001, into Down with Disease, into Twist, into Maze, Lonely Trip, Oblivion debut, Chalk Dust, Encore, Meat Stick, Magasupa, Fuck Your Face, Iculus, Character Zero. Quite an encore for the first show of the tour. But I guess the 2001 into Down with Disease. Maybe we tackle that first. How do you guys feel about that jam? First jam of the tour.
Yeah, I was excited. I think anytime they open up set 2 with 2001, that's like hitting me where I like it. At first, I was like, wow, I've been listening to too much Goose, because I was like, it kind of sounds like they're going to cover Dripfield right now. I mean, they're not, but like, I was like, Yeah, I just thought it was a great call to open the set with that. And, I really loved what they've been doing with 2001 lately. Like, I thought the Mexico version was really awesome. Like, I think they've been hitting it really well. And yeah, this Down with Disease is a great little jam. Like, when Paige went to the piano, it was so rich, it's really, really delicate and pretty. There's some really nice echoing on that first peak. And then the second peak was just beautiful. And Trey, again, sounding incredible. I thought this was like the strongest moment jam wise of the show.
It was the first 2001 set two opener since 12/31/2016, which felt notable to me. They also
Really?
opened, yeah,
Wow.
they
Nice.
also opened 7/23/16 with it, which is a show that for listeners out there, if you have not gone back and listened to it, that is one of my favorite shows of 2016. But I say that because it's not really something that they do these days. Back in the late 90s, 2001 was kind of like you penciled it in along with Down with Disease as a set opener, and it just really worked in that setting. To your point, Meg, like over the last couple of years, they've just expanded that song and allowed the space within the peaks to really, just settle in and become part of the jam, which was part of the magic of it in the late 90s. And, 10-minute version, really solid intro. Fishman on the Marimba Luminas, an instrument that, for whatever reason, it's been there for 10 years and it rarely gets used in jam settings. It always seems to be used in Mercury, Son of a Mule, and not much else. It was really cool to see that be kind of a feature in the intro there. The Down with Disease, I re-listened to it this morning. It was a pretty solid, blissful C major type peak. When I listened back to it, though, Page's levels and Page, his lead playing on the Baby Grand was probably my highlight of that overall jam. It felt as though about 15 minutes in, it was drifting into a minor key and could have gone into a little bit more of an expansive jam, but they opted for Twist, which, similar to the 46 Days, was one of my early highlights of the second set. Had that feel of that kind of Trey trio growl from Trey. I thought that was a really impressive jam that, you know, I think maybe 2 weeks from now they let that expand a little bit more, like that Down with
Mhm.
Disease, the Twist get a little bit more time to breathe. So your opening night of tour, you're just kind of testing the waters, seeing what happens. I kept thinking back and forth between this show and the Seattle show, because the Seattle show that opened the spring tour was such a shocking show. It had this brilliant wave of hope. It had this brilliant golden age, both centerpiece jams that have been huge re-listens for me throughout the year. And I was thinking about the difference between starting an 8 show run versus starting a 22 show tour, whatever this is
Mm.
going to end up being. Plus, this has that like mini Baker's dozen feel. And I think that, the biggest difference is they're settling in for weeks on the road here and want to test a few things out, rather than saying, we got to throw everything at this show, because if this show doesn't hit, what's going to happen over this the subsequent 7 nights. So bits of moments there. Big highlight for me later, though, in the second set that we'll get to.
Yeah, I think the Down with Disease, followed a pretty nice, like, it was multi-part. It had a
Yeah.
little bit of diversity, but did like build on that kind of major key bliss stuff with, like you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I just Lonely Trip is just to skip over a couple things, and you guys can go back if you want to. But Lonely Trip remains the best landing spot after the jam, and a pretty good maze here too, like pretty well played. It definitely rehearsed, I think. And Lonely Trip is just, man, what a beautiful song.
Yeah, I don't think any song I have yet to hear a song by any artist that captures that like vibe of the middle of the pandemic, when
Yeah.
you're separate from everyone and you kind of hope that you can reconnect with people. And I know people who have lost people significant to them, who speak about that song really having a connection to them. It's one of those lyrically, and then you add the music to it and it just hits in a very, very heavy way.
I think what's cool about that song too is it is so specific to that like quarantine pandemic moment, but then it's also super translatable. Like, you can
Totally.
take that message outside of the context of that and it still kind of hits just as deep. Beautiful, just timeless song. So nice. I wasn't super into the maze, but I felt like the tempo felt a little off. But
Yeah,
but I was glad that they went to Lonely Trip, and I feel like they kind of like, once again, those newer songs kind of help steer Trey's ship in the way that he wants to go, and I think that really paid off in Oblivion, which was so exciting to hear. I was just, I knew it's been played on Trey tour, and it was just so exciting to hear them play this song. I think the lyrics are incredible. shout out to Tom and Trey for writing such a cool song. It's got such a mood to it. It's super vibey. It's like, and this jam too felt really contemplative. It's like darker, but not necessarily evil, which I thought was really cool. Again, playing right into that kind of growly place, and has this really great riff that's like perfect for expanding on. It has that, you can hear the riff being like stretched out throughout the jam, which I think is so great. Really spacey, really juicy. Paige was playing like really gooey stuff. I love this. I want this to go like super long, and I can't wait till it does. I'm really excited about that. I feel like this part was definitely, like, I think my highlight of the whole entire show. The song and maybe the Chalk Dust next.
Yeah, new songs just tend to rule Phish these days. If you go back through, I want to say from like 2018, 19 onwards, the new songs that they've written that came out in like the 2015, 17 batch, and then now the 4.0 songs, Set Your Soul Free, Everything Is Right, Soul Planet, these are songs that I think get derided for a variety of reasons. And you can have your debate on the quality of the song, but what is clear is that these are the songs that really seem to inspire the band, and inspire the band from an improvisational standpoint. And I think, like you guys, for me, what I'm going to always go back to with a show, and what always defines a really quality tour, really quality show for me, is the re-listenability factor. The show happens, it's a one-time thing. What are you going to go back to? What are you going to re-listen to? What is going to continue to evoke new ideas and kind of shock and surprise you in ways? And Oblivion fit that perfectly. It's, just if there's anything to like go into a Phish tour with the right headspace, it's surrender to these new songs, because these new songs are what are going to ultimately define the quality of things. And to your points, Meg, it felt abstract. It felt like they were in kind of uncharted territory. It felt like, from a jamming standpoint, they were in spaces that felt new and kind of dangerous to them as musicians. It didn't cater to, all right, let's just jump into D major and ride this to a peak. There's no real way to turn this into like a tension and release jam unless you jam it extensively and find yourself in that space. So being kind of in the pocket of the song while exploring kind of the outer edges of it allows them the opportunity to really just be in a new musical space. I found really fascinating. Re-listened to it twice this morning, and that catered then in a lot of cases to the Chalk Dust, which I was texting with a really good friend about it this morning. It feels like every time Chalk Dust is played since they came back after COVID, it's this song that, like, it could be 12 minutes and it has this like 7-minute segment of abstract jamming that just blows your mind apart. Last night kind of got into this shoegaze zone. Like, those two songs to close out the set, probably my favorite moment of the entire show. And, a very strange structural feeling to the show where, like, you get towards the end of things. Usually this is when they're throwing Santos and Zero and Susie Greenberg and just like fun rock songs out. And instead they're exploring new terrain that feels like that could move nicely into tonight's show.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about it a lot. Like, the new material is what gives them the lifeblood for jamming, and that definitely, it seems like there's more. There's more coming, I think. I just want to go back to Lonely Trip, the album, because there's like 15 songs on there. We've heard most of them, but there's still a lot in there that could be played. And the Tom Scott Trey combos, like Lonely Trip and many of the others on there, are just so good. I just love that album. I feel like that album kind of got left behind a little bit as they started making new stuff. But so maybe there's more that can come out of that. But just on Oblivion,
I just want to acknowledge to your point, because I think you're absolutely right. And I think if you look back, like, you run through Ghost of the Forest, Lonely Trip, Mercy, and January, the record that Trey recently released with Paige, he as a songwriter right now is just at a completely different level than he was even 10 years ago. And I think that there's a lot of confidence. There's leaning into that vulnerability. And there were a ton of songs that were debuted or played for the first time in a long time at those Trey Trio shows that I hope spill over into Phish tour. And Oblivion is literally just the tip of that.
Yeah, it was so Tab played Oblivion on Friday night in Asbury. I was with Tom for that, and I was texting with Tom this morning. And just, I think everyone knows this, but this is one of the I guess Tom said 7 or 8 songs that they wrote together this year on the water in Maryland. And he said about this song, Trey immediately said, "This is a Phish song." And obviously Tom is
Yeah.
hoping that the other 7 make the jump as well. But Tom really loves this song. So it was cool to hear it with Tab and now with Phish. Justin, great call on Oblivion by YR. Young Ryan, I have to say it was a good call, but it was, saw it coming. Didn't we all see it coming? Didn't we all see it coming?
Yeah. They sound.
I don't want to take anything away, but I didn't participate in the pick 5, so who am I to talk? But I'm proud of you anyway, Ryan. So all right, Chalk Dust almost gets into like a Tweezer reprise kind of jam at the end. Like they didn't want to stop, and then you got the Iculus in the encore. It's crazy encore. Definitely, there shows that they're excited to be back and playing again.
Yeah, and totally like fucks my chances for getting an Iculus at MSG or anywhere this summer. It's like
definitely
okay, just keep chasing that one.
Sorry,
it sucks. It's all right.
Sorry, Megan.
No, it was exciting. It was exciting to hear. I actually like classic couch tour move. I was like, okay, well, it's probably going to be done after Makasuba Policeman, so I'm just going to go to bed. And then I woke up to Fuck Your Face, Iculus, and Character Zero, and was like, okay, I guess it's like that you get that like you shouldn't have missed out feeling even if you just go to sleep on couch tour. But yeah, it was fun. I just felt like the whole encore just felt like tapping into that like old fun playful Phish that we love so much, and that is just like so what summer Phish tour is all about for me and like should be, is just like deep jams and like lots of fun. And I feel like they really like got there towards the end of that show and had that spirit of both of those. And I felt like, you've got songs that have not been played in a while, which is really exciting, and it's fun to see those come out again.
Yeah, our co-host who is driving and potentially watching right now, Jonathan, talked a lot. I think he had really honest and I don't want to say it was definitely criticism, but I think he was he pointed out that Spring Tour, while it had a ton of deep jams and was a really successful tour, I think overall, it didn't have a ton of humor. There wasn't like a Fishman moment. There wasn't that tapping into that sort of like Phish, joking on stage manner where it suddenly, however many people in the crowd, however many thousands are there, it feels like you're just kind of back in Slade Hall with the band and they're just kind of fucking around and being like, why don't we just throw this into the show? And that encore felt in that spirit. And that is a part of the Phish energy where, my wife and I were watching the show last night and they started playing Fuck Your Face. And she was like, was this like an amazing show? Like, what is going on? Why are they playing this right now? It was just kind of like the sentiment of like, we're just throwing songs out there that are rare, that are the type of songs that people tend to chase. It was the first Makasupa since Santa Barbara 2021, none in 2022. One of those songs that just kind of pops up once, maybe twice a year, had a really cool, mellow little jam to it as well. It felt like what you want as you jump into a tour where the band doesn't necessarily want to leave the stage, you sacrifice maybe 1-2 songs in your second set, maybe an extended jam in your second set, but they come back for the encore and are just like, we're going to play right up until curfew. And we have zero desire to leave the stage. So really, really dug that. I felt that everything from Oblivion to the end was the strongest like run of the overall show. And for me, I was feeling bits and pieces of the show up until then. It was the segment of the show where I was like, okay, we're good. Tour's starting. This is awesome. Everyone's happy again. And just really excited to see where this whole thing goes.
All right. So I just decided that we're going to do one question per quick hit at the end. So
beautiful.
Love it.
Over under on 20-minute jams this tour.
How many
shows go back to this later.
How many shows do we have?
Probably 20-ish.
I'm going to go with 23.
Okay, so I don't really know what this means. You have to explain what it means.
Okay, there's 23 shows, including Dick's. It means how many 20-minute jams you think they'll play, and then it's basically like over under in terms of, do you think they'll, if you say 5, then that's your guess.
Wait, you said there are 23 shows, not 20?
23 shows.
23.
I'm going to change my answer. You go, Meg.
Okay.
Okay, so how many jams out of 23 shows will go over 20 minutes?
Yeah.
14.
Okay.
I'm going to adjust mine to 18.
Wow, you guys. All right.
What do you think?
What's
Reggie?
yours?
What did
I'm
Trey
going with-
tell you?
I'm going with
Yeah.
7. I'm going with 7.
Oof.
I know.
We're I guess we're optimistic.
Hey, depends how you look at it, you know? Okay, good.
It's the summer of micro jams, according to you. So we'll see.
It could be. It could be.
Could be.
That's the question. All right. Well, this is fun. We're gonna be back tomorrow, and this is fun. I'm glad we're doing quick hits again. A couple comments came in, and people said I was hoping you guys would do this again. So here we are, and we'll be back tomorrow. We don't know exactly what time, but around this time.
Yeah. We'll let you know. We'll keep you on your toes. I'll put it out on all of our socials. We're just trying to keep everybody, like guessing this year. It's exciting.
I mean, you don't want anyone to be complacent, during
No.
Phish short. So.
No.
Everybody has
right.
to be focused.
Gotta
This
be
is
focused.
important.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, everybody.